Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Niger's announcement that it was revoking its military accord with the United States draws mixed reactions in Niamey. What is driving the killings of young women in Kenya? Our reporter speaks to rights groups and experts on what must be done to stop them. And a survey reveals that people over 65 showed stable mental wellness during the COVID-19 outbreak, while those under 35 experienced severe declines. We'll have a report. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin in West Africa, where the junta has announced it is withdrawing from a military cooperation accord with the United States signed in 2012. Niger's leaders claim it is unfair and illegal. The announcement comes on the heels of a visit in Niamey by a U.S. delegation led by Molly Fee, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. Abdul Razak Idrissa reports from Niamey, narrated by Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori.
The announcement made on national television over the weekend by the junta's spokesperson was splashed on front pages of local newspapers on Monday.
The American presence in the territory of Niger is illegal and violates all the constitutional and democratic rules which require that the sovereign people, particularly through their elected representatives, be consulted on the installation of a foreign army on the national territory. Thus, it was by a simple verbal note, number 174 of July 6, 2012, that the American side unilaterally imposed on Niger an agreement relating to the status of military personnel of the United States and the civilian employees of the American Department of Defense on the territory of the Republic of Niger. This agreement not only is deeply unfair in its substance, but also does not meet the aspirations and interests of the Nigerian people.
For the junta's supporters, this decision is welcome.
The United States may have forgotten that since July 26, 2023, Niger has no longer been the same. It is another country which has decided to assume its independence and sovereignty and no longer intends to have its behavior dictated to it from now on. Niger is ready to work with all countries that accept our independence and sovereignty. We just do not intend to bend to the will of any country from now on.
The United States has nearly 1,000 soldiers in Niger and a drone base near Agadez in northern Niger. French troops were forced out of the country in December 2023. The departure of all foreign troops from Nigerian soil was the clarion call by the coordinator of the M62 movement, Abdoulaye Shedou.
As part of the assertion of our sovereignty, we do not need any foreign military presence in Niger. And when I say we don't need any presence, that includes the United States. Whether the United States likes it or not, Niger has complete freedom to work with any power, any country.
For Soumana Idrissa Maïga, the publishing director of the privately owned L'Inquisiteur, there is need for caution.
I don't think it's the right posture after breaking with France to distance ourselves from the United States. I think it risks further diplomatically isolating Niger, and this isolation is not without consequences. There will be consequences on the security level, on the economic level, because Niger has still been a prey to jihadist attacks for several years, and the United States is a first-choice development partner for Niger. The proof is that they have many achievements.
According to the junta, the American delegation that visited Niamey last week showed a condescending attitude, denying Niger the freedom to choose its partners, particularly on security matters. Arriving Tuesday in Niamey, the American delegation led by Molly Fee, Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, met twice with the Prime Minister Ali Mohammed Lamine Zein. In response, Matthew Miller, spokesperson for the State Department, said that Washington has taken note of the Niamey press release and that it follows frank discussions and that the United States is still in contact with the junta and will provide new information if necessary. For Abdul Razak Idrissa in Niamey, I'm Vincent Makori, VOA News.
U.S. Secretary of State Lloyd Austin is in Germany, where he hosted another round of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. But Niger's withdrawal from its agreement with the U.S. military is also very important to the Secretary. For more on Secretary Austin's visit to Ramstein Air Base and his thoughts on Niger, VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb joins us live from Germany. Hello, Carla.
Hi, Esther.
What did Austin have to say about Niger today?
Well, Austin was actually very focused on Ukraine. He took questions on Ukraine and Gaza. But the top U.S. military officer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General C.Q. Brown, did talk about Niger today. And he said that he was concerned. They heard the message over the weekend. But then ever since that message from Niger, there have been mixed signals coming to the United States. And so they are seeking clarification on what is going to happen in the coming days. But he said that the U.S. military is a planning organization, and they are planning for either contingency, whether or not they have to remove their 650 troops, about 1,000 U.S. military personnel total in the country, or if those forces are going to stay, because Niger for several years has been a very important partner to the United States in counterterrorism. And with that, if they have to leave Niger, that will leave a big void for the United States. And C.Q. Brown, the general did say that he is going to be looking at other nations in West Africa to try to build a counterterror partnership as well, should Niger want the United States to go. In fact, just here in Germany, just today, he was speaking with some of the partners in the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, who also partner with some West African nations to try to coordinate their approach to counterterrorism in the future.
All right, talking about Ukraine, what's the Defense Contact Group proposing for Ukraine as this war from Russia continues?
So there were several new announcements coming over the last couple days for Ukraine. The biggest one that we heard Secretary Austin give praise for is the 800,000 artillery rounds that the Czech Republic has said they will procure for Ukraine. The German defense minister also announcing 100,000 artillery rounds for Ukraine. That's what's so important, because they are running out of ammunition on the front lines. And the United States, who has been a big supplier for them, the United States has ran out of money. So the Pentagon has been cobbling together whatever it can. They had not produced an aid package for Ukraine since December until last week. And they were only able to do that because while the pot that they had gone to zero, as they bought different things to replenish their weapons for Ukraine, that they had given to Ukraine.
Thank you,
as
Carla.
they were getting their contracts back, they found a little bit money here and there, and that's how they were able to provide some funds.
Thank you so much, Carla. VOA's Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb reporting live for us from Germany. Now, for more reaction on Niger's junta action to revoke the military accord with the United States, I'm joined live via Skype from Dakar, Senegal, by Ibrahima Khan, a West African political analyst. Ibrahima, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me today.
Now, what do you think is the reason behind Niger's action to revoke the military accord with the United States? You are very close to where Niger is. Maybe there's something else that we don't know.
Well, when you look at the current situation of Niger, since ECOWAS imposed Niger a lot of very drastic sanctions, Niger turned his eyes to the east. East meaning Russia, East meaning Iran, countries that try to help Niger to mitigate the sanctions that were imposed by ECOWAS. And I think the next step after the relief of the sanction is for Niger now to seek a kind of independence. And that independence means, like what Mali did against France, to ask the American forces to leave the country because they believe that they have a better relationship with Russia and Iran that are giving them ammunition and that are helping them with a lot of strategic experience in the fight against terrorism. And you see that in Mali, for instance, the military succeeded to take over Kidal after the French have left. So they believe also that by developing the same strategy, they can really make sure that the terrorism is behind them and not another problem in the country.
Ibrahim, severing ties with the military, the United States military, and the junta's action now again to quit the regional ECOWAS bloc, and again they kicked out the French forces. What kind of message are they sending through these actions?
There are two messages. One, the first message is for the local population to get more support, more connection with the population, because don't forget that these people came to power by a military coup, and they are still contested in the region. So they need local support to continue their action, to continue to stay in power. But the second one, I think, is for them trying to really get resources that will help them to continue not only to control the country, but to deal with what they call the insurgency. Given that the West didn't help them at all to really deal with the insurgency, when you look at it's really interesting that you mentioned Ukraine. The amount of resources that the U.S. gave to Ukraine in less than 2 years, and the peanuts that they got from the U.S., despite the fact that U.S. Army in Niger, that itself can help. I can explain why they want to change the relationship. And maybe it's also a negotiating tool that they are using to tell to the U.S., if you want to stay here,
Ibrahim,
you have to increase your support and other stuff.
We're yet to see exactly what the outcome will be, knowing that the U.S. has trained a lot of their militaries there. They've been helping to fight the jihadists there as well. So we'll see what happens with Russia and Iran trying to get into this mix. Ibrahima, thank you very much for your insight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Ibrahima Khan is a West African political analyst. West African nations are pushing for the construction of a major highway network connecting 5 countries from the Ivory Coast to Nigeria. The African Development Bank says the project will be an economic engine for all the countries involved. Senanu Todd reports from Accra, Ghana.
Ni Ananofori is a traditional leader and the custodian of land in the Ga East traditional area, just outside Ghana's capital of Accra. His community has been marked for the construction of portions of the 1,028-kilometer long Abidjan-Lagos corridor. A 3-kilometer highway tunnel will run through his community.
Having a tunnel in your area, which is one of the first in West Africa, is going to increase the value of our area, the lands, and so on. And many people would like to invest in that area.
The corridor is a transnational highway project aimed at connecting 5 West African countries, Ivory Coast through Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. The ultimate objective, according to the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, is to provide jobs and create a fast-moving economic corridor between the nations. The project was initiated in 2013 by all 5 countries and has gone through a series of studies and evaluations to develop a 6-lane highway design. It will connect the most economically viable cities, ports and airports in the sub-region.
So the whole project objective is looking at how we integrate the economies of the West African community. We are looking at cross-border and improving cross-border trade, and then we're looking at improving economic and social activities between the communities in the corridor.
There are still issues to be worked out, including ways to run one highway across multiple countries with diverse language systems and legal frameworks. The Economic Community of West African States say construction on the project could begin as early as 2025.
The whole of 2024, we will be on the market looking for money. If it so happens that a section attracts financing immediately, nothing stops us from starting.
The plan envisions future connections to other countries, creating a continent-wide network of 9 highways spanning from Cairo to Cape Town and from Dakar to Djibouti. The next step, according to ECOWAS, is to connect Dakar to the Abidjan-Lagos corridor. Sana Lutot, VOA News, Accra, Ghana.
We'd like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, a report on the world's mental health. Stay with us.
This week on Straight Talk Africa. Soaring food and transportation prices have many Nigerians scrambling to make ends meet. Some multinational companies are now limiting their operations in the West African country. Nigeria's currency has plunged as inflation surges. How did things in Africa's largest economy get so bad? Join me, Heidi Adams, to discuss this on the next Straight Talk Africa.
In other news, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's controversial bill to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda is closer to becoming law after his government rejected all the proposed changes from the upper house of parliament. Under the plan, asylum seekers who arrive on England's southern coast in inflatable boats would be sent to Rwanda, but no one has been deported because of legal challenges. And Stanis Bujakera, 33, a prominent Democratic Republic of Congo journalist, was sentenced to 6 months in prison Monday for allegedly incriminating military intelligence in the murder of an opposition politician. He has been jailed since September over an article in Joe Afrique magazine that suggested Congolese military intelligence operatives had killed opposition politician Cherubin Okende. The recent rise in killings of mainly young women in Kenya is sparking widespread condemnation and outcry from rights groups. At least 16 women have been killed since the start of the year. Juma Majanga has more.
In a short rented apartment on the building behind me is where the dismembered and decapitated body of Rita Waini, a 20-year-old university student, was found after she was reportedly kidnapped for ransom. Waini is among the more than a dozen women killed since the beginning of the year. Marion Mutwiri, a professor of psychology at the United States International University in Nairobi, says the killings are not new.
So to date, we actually have 500 women who have been killed from 2016. But recently, it is since January that we have a recording of about 16. So it's not really new. It's just that now we are aware as a society because it has become highlighted as a big issue.
University student Michelle Wanjiko is angry.
In the news, it's always be a woman has been killed, a baby has been raped, this and the other. It will always be that, and it's always young girls and young women, even old women, which is like we are not protected at any age or any stage of our lives, and it's hurtful. And I hate that my own government wouldn't do anything about their people, but especially the women not being able to go outside without the fear of being killed.
Mutwiri, however, says researchers are seeing emerging trends in the killings.
People don't know how to resolve conflicts. And we have very empowered women today. And therefore, we're in a relationship with one. She's not listening, she's not adhering to what you expect is the traditional script of a woman. You become violent instead of learning how to negotiate and resolve problems.
Vivian Ouya is a human rights lawyer and co-founder of the movement Feminists in Kenya. Ouya was one of the organizers of demonstrations in January.
The first objective that we had was to make sure that we could come collectively as Kenyan women, that despite the killings that we were experiencing, despite our personal safety and security being compromised, despite our right to life being compromised, we could still come together collectively to, first of all, not cower in the face of patriarchy, because that is what patriarchy wants.
Kenya's National Police Service says it is investigating the killings. BOA wrote to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations seeking information about the investigations, but did not get a response. Sexual and gender-based violence experts such as Lydia Winder advise young women to be cautious about the men they see.
For how long have they known this person? Have they done a background check? Do these people have friends who are their friends? The people we'd call mutual friends. And also just encouraging them to always leave the contact of the person they are going to see.
Gender activists want the Kenyan government to declare femicide a national crisis. For young women like Michelle Wanjiko, all they want is to live their lives free of fear. Juma Majanga, VOA News, Nairobi.
It's time now for our health segment, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with an update on mental health. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. The fourth annual Mental State of the World report, titled A Perspective on Internet-Enabled Populations, says worldwide mental well-being in 2023 remained at a post-pandemic low, with no signs of returning to pre-pandemic levels. The survey conducted this month by Sapien Labs revealed that people over 65 showed stable mental wellness during the COVID-19 outbreak, whereas younger generations, particularly those under 35, experienced a severe decline. African and Latin American countries topped the list, while European countries ranked the lowest. The research is based on an online anonymous survey called the MHQ assessment. The African Population and Health Research Center, in partnership with Welcome, is unveiling a new initiative, the Mental Health Data Prize Africa. The prize aims to address existing gaps in the understanding of mental health in Africa and how it is addressed on the continent. The Welcome-funded prize is open to innovators, researchers, and startups. According to World Health Organization, more than 116 million people were estimated to be living with a mental health illness before the COVID-19 pandemic. For more insight, I spoke with Catherine Kyobutungi, Executive Director at the African Population and Health Research Center.
The Mental Health Data Prize is an initiative between APHRC and Welcome, or formerly Welcome Trust. And really what it's trying to do is to elevate the discourse around mental health on the African continent and how mental health disorders affect young people, and trying to see whether within Africa there are solutions that can be grounded in good science, but also supported by the technologies that have emerged when it comes to data science. And so it is bringing mental health and data science together. And the idea is to form teams that are made up of mental health practitioners, researchers who do other things, data nerds or data scientists or innovators, people with lived experiences, and everybody who is involved in mental health, and trying to bring them together and give them resources that allow them to develop solutions of things that are of the utmost importance to young people when it comes to their mental health.
How will the Welcome Funded Prize contribute to reshaping the mental health landscape in Africa?
The Mental Health Data Prize, I think it will contribute to shaping the mental health landscape in two different ways. The prize itself is quite interesting and transformative because it's not every day that a scientist on the African continent receives £200,000 to do something. It's not every day that people with lived experiences participate in developing solutions for themselves. So the prize itself is designed in a way that beyond the prize, I think it's a different way of science, of doing science, that it is science that is participatory, it is science that brings in different stakeholders, and hopefully it's science that comes up with solutions which are likely to be successful. We are trying to build a movement because mental health scientists, mental health researchers are not that many on the continent, and a lot of the mental health is within healthcare facilities. And so the capacity strengthening sessions are building a community of practice. As I've said, so far, we've had more than 2,000 participants in the sessions, and we expect that by the end of the 5 months, maybe if those 2,000 people stay and they go through the whole 5 months training, their capacity is going to be greatly enhanced, not just from understanding different parts of this prize, but also the understanding that mental health.
Okay, I think we have a little technical difficulty there. Well, that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on X at Linor Mudu. Esther, back to you.
I don't want to say goodbye to you, Lino. Maybe we can talk a little more about mental health. What else do we need to do? Because there's so many things happening in the world.
So one of the things that she discussed is the fact that cultural cultural aspects when it comes to the issue of mental health will also be addressed, because when you think about it in the African context, in many settings, people associate mental health with witchcraft. And so because of that, the people that need mental health services do not get the proper diagnosis, they do not get the proper treatment, and they are not able to really have the help that they need to address their issue. So it's a very important prize that Welcome and the organization are putting together to enable the discussion around mental health to change, to be more adapted to local realities.
Does she address the issue of which gender is most affected? Is it the men, is it the women, or is it the younger generation? What's the category here, and what are, the pointers that somebody needs mental health help?
Well, mental health does not discriminate. Young people as well as older people and the youth, everyone is affected. But when it comes to the cultural context, a lot of time when they talk about witchcraft, they will talk about older people very often about being affected by witchcraft, or they will say that younger people have been jinxed, literally, to become mentally ill. So when it comes to this whole issue of mental illness, it's very, very complex when you address it culturally.
Thank you so much, Lino, for filling in the gap right there. Be sure to watch Lino Mudu's health reports every Tuesday right here on Africa 54. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.
This week on Straight Talk Africa, soaring food and transportation prices have many Nigerians scrambling to make ends meet. Some multinational companies are now limiting their operations in the West African country. Nigeria's currency has plunged as inflation surges. How did things in